Welcome to the Wholeness section on the Deeper in Spirit website. Maybe better named Returning to Wholeness. We have a set of teachings in front of us called the Beatitudes. As we're told the story, it's that once again Jesus was teaching on the mountainside. Many people, thousands of people there. I have a very difficult time imagining that this, once again, master teacher, this God, simply listed off the behaviors that people need to have as they're walking in life. Rather, what he was doing was telling them not just what the behavior is, but how to get there. The Beatitudes represent a step-by-step instruction set. Any one of them can stand on their own. Any one of them can be a lesson in and of themselves. But when understood, this very cyclical process that you can go through on a minute-to-minute basis, day-to-day, month-to-month, year-to-year, and so on, this process is a recipe for returning to wholeness. So why do I need wholeness? If you've looked at our effective prayer section of the website, you'll see that we need to be aligned with God. Our vibrational energy resonating with that which God placed inside of us and all around us in creation. If I do not have wholeness, if I have these blocks all over the place, then I cannot experience what we refer to in that effective prayer. I cannot fully experience that hollow bone and letting that vibration, light, and sound of creation flow through me, because I've got these blocks all over the place. I can do it in the moment, but as soon as I step into the world, it stops, because I'm back in control. Because I've decided how I'm going to be, instead of letting God guide me and direct me in each moment through that divine wisdom that flows through me. We're born with it. We want to resonate with it fully. And if I have resistors in the way, that resonance will not come out whole. By way of introduction to the Beatitudes themselves, you would commonly know them as the blessed are, or blessed are they when, or statements such as this. And so there's so many things that go on here, but we have a 9-step process, and in each one of those things, each one of those statements begins with this word, blessed, blessed. And so when we look at that word from an Aramaic perspective, the word is tuveun, tuveun. And so what this is telling us is now is the absolutely right and perfect moment to do these things. Now is the perfect moment. We created this graphic for you so that you'd be able to see what it is that we're talking about as we go through each of the steps individually. The first thing you should notice is that it's a circular process, meaning it's not a once and done process. The second thing is to notice that each of the individual steps leads to that center, which is the whole human being. That's what we're after. The first step in the Beatitude process, path to becoming whole, is to focus in on the breath. And what this does is it gives us access to all of the sacred wisdom that exists in the Aramaic word called the Malkuta. We have access to this, it flows through us, but the breath is the way that we begin to get focused on that sacred wisdom so that we have it available to us as we go forward. The second step, we call it identifying confusion. But really what we're talking about here isn't so much just confusion, it's those parts of us that we no longer wanted to be part of the whole. We pushed them aside because of some kind of pain or some kind of traumatic experience, something of that nature. And so this gives us the ability to identify those places and begins the process of being knit back together. So we built some walls, and here in this process we call it softening. Typically, in order for those walls to be fortified, we've become rigid. And so what we're doing is we're softening those places of rigidity. And this part of the Beatitude prayer helps us to do that in a way that brings those parts back to us in balance when it's time to begin the recreation process. It's really important that we recognize that now that we've broken down those walls, I have to shift the way that I'm thinking about all of this. I really have to desire wholeness. I have to desire that full alignment with that vibration, light, sound, energy of all of creation and of God. This helps me to shift it. It's typically the hunger and thirst for righteousness. Now finally we've set the table and we begin that process of recreating ourselves. Except we don't do it. It's in these steps that God is actually helping us move through. That divine energy is moving through us and flowing through us by using these Aramaic words and this language. It gives us access to these things, and the recreation process takes hold here. Once I've been recreated, I now have a new way of looking at things. I have a new way of seeing things. My mindsets might be a little bit different. And I'm going to try to be something different in the world based on how I feel and these new realizations that I have. And I have to be really passionate about that. I have to be able to hold to it. And so it has to be created in my deepest heart's desire to remain whole even when I confront the world. So now I step out into the world and I try to live from that place of wholeness, that place of the true self. And from there, I start to emanate this new self and I start to bring that out into the world. It feels different for me. It feels different for those around me. But this is truly how we create peace, is by looking deep within ourselves and bringing that wholeness out into the world. When that happens, typically we become uncomfortable, we become frustrated. Maybe I can't stay there in that place of wholeness while I'm getting hit in the face by the world. And so I begin to persecute myself. I'm not moving fast enough. My progress isn't quick enough. Or I don't like the way it feels. And so this is the first step, this inner persecution of the self. And so now it's not just looking at your own self, it's the impacts you're having on others. I can tell you that coming from a place of peace makes other people uncomfortable. And so they will have things to say about you, maybe start rumors, negativity. They want the old person back. They want that old self back. The key here for both steps in persecution is being able to push through, and this line of the prayer helps you do just that. All of this leads to this whole process of creating wholeness. We have before us a 9-step journey, but it's not once and done. Once we go through those persecution steps, we find that there's more walls that have to be dealt with, more places of discomfort out in the world, and causing you not to be your truest and whole self. So we encourage you to continue forward. So welcome to the Beatitudes, the return to wholeness.